It never feels like a pattern in the beginning. It feels like something rare. You meet someone and almost instantly there's a sense of recognition, not just attraction, but something deeper. Conversations flow too easily. Their presence feels strangely familiar. You don't question it. You trust it, because it feels like connection. But here's the part most people never stop to consider. What if that feeling isn't love, but recognition of something your mind already knows? Not them. The pattern. Psychologically, we're not only drawn to people, we're drawn to emotional experiences we've already lived through, even if those experiences were confusing, incomplete, or even painful, especially then. Because the mind doesn't just seek happiness, it seeks resolution. And sometimes what feels like this is different is actually something very old, repeating itself in a new form. That's why it feels so strong, so immediate, so real. You're not just meeting a person. You're stepping into something familiar. And familiarity can be incredibly convincing. It can feel like chemistry, like destiny, like something meaningful is unfolding. But familiarity doesn't always mean truth. Sometimes it just means repetition. And if you've ever found yourself saying, "Why does this always happen to me? Why do I keep feeling the same things with different people?" Then there's a possibility you haven't been choosing something new. Something has been choosing for you. Patterns don't appear randomly. They are built quietly over time, through experiences that shape how you understand closeness, attention, and emotional safety. Long before your first relationship, your mind was already learning what connection feels like. Not through words, through moments, through the way attention was given or withheld, through how emotions were responded to or ignored, through what felt safe and what didn't. And without realizing it, your mind created a blueprint. Not a conscious one, but a deeply internal map of what connection feels like. And later in life, you don't question this map. You follow it. That's why certain people stand out immediately. Not because they are necessarily better for you, but because they feel familiar to your internal world. And your mind interprets that familiarity as meaning, but familiarity is not always a sign of something healthy. Sometimes it's a sign of something unfinished. In analytical psychology, there's an idea that we project parts of ourselves onto others. Unresolved emotions, unmet needs, inner images we're not fully aware of. And when someone fits that internal image, the connection can feel intense, magnetic, almost impossible to ignore. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Intensity is not proof of love. It's often proof that something inside you has been activated, not by who they truly are, but by what they represent to your unconscious. At some point, something shifts. It's subtle at first. The same person who felt effortless now feels inconsistent. The connection that once felt clear now feels uncertain. Small moments begin to stand out, moments you would have ignored before. And yet, despite everything changing, the emotional pull remains. That's the power of a pattern. It doesn't disappear when things stop feeling good. It tightens, because now it's no longer just about connection. It's about restoring what was lost. You remember how it felt in the beginning, the closeness, the certainty, and without realizing it, you start chasing that version of the relationship, even if it no longer exists. This is where many people get trapped, not in the reality of the relationship, but in the memory of what it once seemed to be. And here's the moment most people avoid facing. If every relationship feels different but ends the same way, then it was never just about them. It was the pattern repeating itself. Different faces, same emotional outcome, the same confusion, the same distance, the same feeling of trying to hold on to something that keeps slipping away. And the more you try to fix it, the deeper you stay inside it. Because you're not just reacting to the present, you're responding to something older, something unresolved. The moment you begin to see the pattern, everything changes, not externally, internally, because now there's a space between you and your reaction. You start noticing things you didn't see before, the emotional rhythm, the familiar distance, the way you feel pulled towards something that deep down doesn't feel stable. And for the first time you question it, not them, the pattern itself. But awareness comes with tension. Part of you still feels the pull, the attachment. the emotional familiarity that feels almost impossible to let go of. And another part of you starts to step back, to observe, to pause instead of react. This is where real change begins, not in finding someone new, but in becoming different within the same situation. Because patterns don't just involve other people, they involve your responses, the way you chase when someone withdraws, the way you over-explain to be understood, the way you ignore your own needs just to keep the connection alive. Breaking a pattern means interrupting these automatic responses, and that feels uncomfortable because it goes against what your mind has learned to do. But the moment you stop reacting the same way, the pattern starts losing control. When patterns begin to break, something unexpected happens. Things feel so calmer, and for many people that calm feels unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. Because when you're used to intensity, calm can feel like something is missing, like the connection isn't strong enough, like something isn't right. But what you're actually experiencing is the absence of the pattern, not the absence of love. This is where your perception begins to shift. You start to realize that not everything that feels powerful is meaningful, and not everything that feels quiet is empty. You begin to separate intensity from depth, and that changes everything. Because now you're no longer drawn only to what feels familiar. You begin to notice what feels consistent, what feels stable, what doesn't require you to constantly adjust yourself just to maintain it. And slowly, your sense of attraction starts to change. Not overnight, but enough to break the cycle. You start choosing differently, not because you forced yourself to, but because you're no longer unconsciously repeating the same emotional script. This isn't about stopping yourself from feeling, it's about understanding what you feel. Recognizing that attraction is real, but not always reliable on its own. That what pulls you towards someone might not be about who they are, but about what they activate in you. And that awareness gives you something most people don't have. Choice. The ability to pause, to question, to see beyond the immediate feeling, and choose something different, something more grounded, more real, more aligned with who you are becoming, not just what you've been conditioned to repeat. But it's important to be clear about something. This kind of reflection is not a replacement for professional help. If you find yourself stuck in painful patterns, emotional confusion, or distress, speaking with a qualified psychologist or mental health professional can offer real guidance and support. This video is simply a space for awareness, a moment to observe, to reflect, to reconnect with your own internal patterns. Because sometimes the most important shift doesn't happen in who you meet next. It happens in how you understand what you feel. And when that changes, the pattern no longer controls you. You see it. And for the first time, you can choose differently.